Welcome to Oral Communication in Context. We are now under Module 2, which is entitled Understanding Various Models of Communication. So let's have our lecture for this session. So our objective, this presentation and module entitled Differentiating Various Models of Communication are designed for use by senior high school students who want to develop their communicative skill. This intends to differentiate and explain various models of communication and how they take place in communicative situations. So there are three general types of communication models in which other communication models are mostly categorized. So the first one is the linear communication model. So the linear model of communication is a simple one-way communication model. So if we say it's one way, the message flows in a straight line from the sender to the receiver, and in which there is no concept of feedback. The only task that the receiver does here is to receive a message. Different models that follow linear model of communication include the following. So the first one is the Laswell's communication model. This model was created by a communication theorist named Harold D. Laswell, which is in 1948. So Laswell's model of communication is otherwise known to be the action model, the linear model, or the one-way model of communication. And this is regarded as the most influential type of communication model. So same thing, we have in here the sender, we have the message, the channel or the medium used, and the receiver, with the effects from the message that has been received by the receiver. However, you would notice from in here that there was no chance that this feedback was returned to the sender. So it is called as a one-way model of communication. Second is Shannon-Weaver communication model. This is also inspired by the one-way model of communication and was created in 1948 when Claude Elwood Shannon wrote an article entitled A Mathematical Theory of Communication in Bell System Technical Journal with Warren Weaver. So Shannon was actually an American mathematician, whereas Weaver was a scientist. So the mathematical theory later came to be known as the Shannon-Weaver model of communication, which is now regarded as the mother of all models. So this is more technological than other linear models. It has the same elements with the latter, but there is in here the presence of the noise source in which it is being affected in the delivery of the message. The second is the so-called transactional communication model. In transactional model, senders and receivers both are known as communicators. Both play equally important roles in the process. So the transactional model relates communication with social reality, cultural upbringing, and relational context or relationships. So nonverbal feedback such as gestures, body language are also considered as feedback in this model. So it's not only through words that are regarded as feedbacks, but even nonverbal actions like gestures and body languages. Next, we also have the helical model of communication. So, helical model of communication introduces the concept of time, in which there is the continuity of the communication process and relational interactions are very important. The infinity sign in here states the continuity of communication, meaning communication does not stop, but rather it progresses. Communication is taken as a dynamic process in this type of model, and it progresses with age as our experience and vocabulary increases. So you would notice that at first, the helical spring is at the bottom and it is small and it grows bigger as the communication progresses. The same effect can be seen when communication of humans, in which you know nothing about a person at first, and knowledge grows steadily as you know the person better. It considers all the activities of the person from the past and the present. Next is the interactive communication model. In this type, whenever a source sends a message to a receiver, he or she encodes the message first. The encoded message is then received by the receiver, where it is decoded to get the original information. Again, the receiver acts as a source, encodes another message, also known as a feedback, and then sends it back to the sender. The message formation of both sources are affected by the so-called field of experience. So what do we mean by field of experience? Field of experience is a communication pattern. It's a pattern alteration factor like culture, social, psychology, situation, and channels used. Overlapping field of experiences initiates conversation, and conversation in turn expands the communicator's field of experience. All these factors also affect the message interpretation. So here is the diagram or the model which shows the SRAM communication model. This is the most commonly taught and widely used theory of communication that was proposed by Wilbur Schramm in the late 1940s. So, this type of model in other sources can be seen or can be read as the Osgood and Schramm model of communication. But in here, we'll be using the Schramm communication model as a term, although they actually refer to the same model, which states that as a process, communication takes place between a sender or the transmitter and a receiver. There will also be a message and a medium through which the message can be transmitted. And further, there is the so-called common field of experience, which will make both the sender and the receiver and the whole communication process interactive as these participants give their feedbacks. So those are the different models of communication. I hope by now you are able to differentiate one among the other and you may now answer the different activities in your module. Thank you very much for listening. Handang isip, handang bukas. Tara, ML tayo!